to OBS at full whack and at full frames. So
no, it's not. It's fucking awful. The picture quality on Twitch is like pixelated shit.
Beats Crate says they need that 10G. Tell them all just tell them all to refresh.
It's not. Well, they can refresh if they like. It came back up, but it looks fucking awful. Are you on the Wi-Fi?
No, we just swapped back over. So if you refresh, it should look fine.
It doesn't.
I mean, you look great on my screen, and what I'm putting out looks okay. Hello, everybody. We are back. So tell everybody to refresh.
Yeah, but it's running. So what will refreshing do?
Oh, we're okay. Mr. Jungle Griffin says we're okay at his end. So let's continue. Let's just continue where we left off.
Where were you?
You were talking about the weather in Scotland, John.
Yes, I was.
Yes. Yeah, the show was going so damn well. Please continue talking about the weather.
Fucking hate your fucking stupid 5G shit. Anyway, fucking lost my thread. Don't know where it was.
Let's move on, shall we, to the next topic?
Yeah, move on.
So, Vince Langman, #climate scam is the hoax of the millennium, according to Vince here on Twitter. What are we looking at, John?
We're looking at big hurricanes that have hit Florida.
Okay.
And the amount of deaths, right?
Yep.
So, as you can see, most of the big deaths happened in early years when the hurricanes were stronger.
Yeah.
And less deaths have happened throughout the years as the hurricanes have got weaker.
Yeah, absolutely right. And once again, this is the sort of thing that CNN, MSNBC, all of those people willfully ignore in order to stand there and go, this is what happens when you ignore climate change.
Yeah, so, I mean, one of the worst hurricanes was the one that hit the Florida Keys in 1935. You know, Cat 5, 408 people killed.
Yeah, wow.
And compare that to Katrina, which was only a Category 3. It killed 1,200 people, but that was due to the levees bursting more than anything.
Speaking of the weather in Scotland,
yeah,
you're about to get bombarded by something, aren't you?
Yeah, it's raining again.
Yeah, I can hear it. It sounds like an adventure, John.
Yeah, it was pissing all night last night.
Well, it's whatever you've got has finally come here, because like I said, my gazebo is down the other end of the garden on its side and upside down. Moving on from Hurricane Ian, what about flying Virgin Atlantic, John?
Oh my God, these guys they've literally jumped the shark, haven't they?
They have, yeah, they've jumped the shark.
I mean, why did they think this needed to be done? I mean, Virgin had actually quite a strict dress code.
They did.
Yeah.
And they've always been a very good airline, as far as I'm concerned.
They have been, yeah. And now they've gone... They've just... who cares?
Well,
really?
This is the thing. Who cares? And my criticism is of the fact that they made this big, blasé, over-the-top advert with people like Michelle Visage and people like that to say, look, our blokes can dress as women and our women can dress as blokes if they like.
What is Michelle Visage?
Some judge on some talent shows?
No, I don't know. What is Michelle Visage?
I don't know.
Is it a drag queen? Is it male? Is it female?
No,
I mean, I actually don't know.
I think it could
can't tell.
I think she is a woman. I'm not sure.
It's just I find it difficult to tell because
I don't want to misgender her, John.
Yeah, well, neither would I, but I actually don't know what it is.
No, me either, and neither do I care, to be honest. And this is the thing, right? I don't care. And when you make this sort of advert, and you do this sort of thing, do you think they realise they're pandering to like 0.01% of the population?
But you know why they're doing this?
Why are they doing this?
ESG.
ESG, baby. ESG. Tell us about ESG, John. Oh.
Well, ESG is your environmental, social, and governance scores.
Yes, it's basically social credit for business.
Yeah, and if you don't have a good ESG score, then Vanguard and BlackRock don't like you. And if Vanguard and BlackRock don't like you, then you don't get to prosper as a business, because Vanguard and BlackRock own most of your company.
Yes, they own
and
most
most
of the
of the companies that you deal with, and most of the governments that you deal with.
Absolutely right. And yeah, most of the world, to be honest.
Yeah. So basically, BlackRock and Vanguard run the world.
Yeah. They rule
And it doesn't
the
really
world.
matter. It doesn't really matter what you think or what other companies think and whatever. If they don't toe the line with BlackRock and Vanguard, then you don't get to play in the big boys.
Listen, do you remember
playground.
do you remember the TV show Pinky and the Brain?
Yes.
Right. So imagine that the Vanguard is Pinky and BlackRock is the Brain, and they just say to each other on a daily basis, "What are we gonna do tonight, eh, Brain?" "Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world."
Yeah, but
That is them.
They've effectively done it. You know, they have. I mean, they brought Netflix to its knees.
Yep.
Because Netflix was so busy playing the woke card to try and get on the right side of BlackRock and Vanguard, it didn't realise all its fucking customers were going, "I'm not watching this shit," and turning it off and unsubscribing.
Because you got to remember, if you get woke, you go broke.
You go broke. And Virgin's next. And let's face it, Virgin made a trading loss of $638 million last year.
Well, that's because of the coup.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
speaking
but they thought the best way to address that was to make their cabin crew drag queens.
Once again, so what people don't understand. I'm gonna use that statistic again. It's roughly 0.01% of the population that are drag queen or trans, and they are pandering to that. And I think when they do this, when companies do this, I think they think it's more like 10% of the population. I don't think they know how tiny a minority these people are, and
well, it's probably skewed in the airline industry, right? But apart from that, you're right. Most of the population isn't affected by this tiny percentage.
No, they're not. But the thing is, as with anything that is far left, they have a loud voice.
They do.
And that's unfortunate. Speaking of the COOF and COOF passports and COOF passports to travel, we now head to sunny old Scotland, John.
John Swinney, or as we prefer to call him, John Swiney.
Or as I prefer to call him, arsehole. Anyway.
Yeah. So he's admitted that the core purpose behind the coronavirus passport scheme was to encourage people to come forward and get their treatment.
Of course it was. It could never have been about anything else.
And this, to be honest, was the case at almost everywhere.
Well,
that's all it was about. And the thing is, now that he's admitting it, that's coercion.
Absolutely right, John. And coercion is, John?
Well, it's illegal.
Yes, illegal, John. And coercion
and unethical.
And would you say that if you've been coerced into something, John, and let's not say what, just if you've been coerced into something, have you given informed consent?
No, you have not.
No, I don't think you have either. And if something were to go wrong, do you think that you've given that informed consent and you've accepted that liability?
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't, because...
But by the same token, the people that manufactured the product you may have taken have been exempted from any liability. So where does the liability lie?
The liability lies with the people doing the coercion.
I would have thought so. And those people, unfortunately...
are your government.
Yeah, are your government. And that tells you everything you need to know. Now,
you just got to remember the scariest words you will ever hear in your life. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
That's an oxymoron.
Absolutely right, John. But yeah, that's not informed consent. And whilst staying in Scotland, we have a little tidbit here from Stephen Kerr in MSP, don't we, John? Come on, explain to us what we're seeing here.
Right, so the SNP are going to cut the education budget in Scotland by £40 million.
Yes.
Right. Now remember, Scotland's quite small, so £40 million is quite a lot of money.
Yes.
Up here. Okay. And then it's announced these two fucking ferries that have been knocking around for 4 years, been built at great expense to the Scottish populace, are going to cost an extra £70 million and won't be ready until the start of 2024. Then, of course, he asks, why has no one resigned over the scandal? And I ask you, sir, when has anyone in the SNP government ever resigned over a scandal? Because, let's face it, her nippiness herself has ridden out, 3, 4, 5, 6 scandals that would have brought down a lesser man like Johnson. And in fact did. I mean, he ate a bit of cake and resigned or get turfed out. But she's still going strong. She covered up everything. She covered up the Nike scandal. Remember when they had the...
Go on, John! Go on, John!
They had the Nike press conference in Scotland. It was a major super spreader event. She covered it up right at the start of this. But no, she rode that one out. And she's kept on riding ever since.
And she will continue to ride that storm. Nothing appears absolute. I reckon Nippy could go out in the street and do a murder, and still she'd be fine.
She probably could. She could have done January the 6th, no problem.
Yep.
And never been called to question.
She could have done January the 6th, leading the pack with a fucking dressed up as William Wallace, screaming freedom.
Yeah.
And she'd have still got away with it.
She could have fine.
And with that freedom, what the fuck is Toby Young talking about now?
Oh, well, he's telling us about this MIT atmosphere scientist, Professor Richard Lindzen. And he says that doubling CO2 only produces 1 degree of warming, and it's ridiculous to demonise a trace gas whose main role is as a fertiliser for plants. Now, we must remember, right, that...
Excuse me.
We must remember that CO2 only makes up 0.03% of the atmosphere.
Yeah, but John, we know that.
And people only produce 0.04% of that 0.03%.
Yeah. But John,
therefore,
we know that.
We don't do anything.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, when you actually drill down into it, you look at the facts, you look at the figures, you look at all of the doomsayer models that have always been wrong. At what point do you turn around to people that have always been wrong and have never got a single thing right and say, yeah, maybe we should stop listening to you?
Yeah, I know. And I made an error.
Okay.
I put my hands up. I made an error on the slides. Slide 20 should be next.
Okay.
Instead of 16, it should be 20 that's next, because that comes on quite nicely from this.
Is this the CO2 double slide?
Yes.
That's in the right place.
All right. Well, I just moved it. If I move it, you get. Technology's wonderful. It's working.
Yeah. So if you move it, I get it put in the right place.
I have the control. I have the
This is
power.
fucking fantastic.
I have the power.
Look, John. Look. Here it is.
By the power of Grayskull, I command you.
There it is.
That's it. So what we must understand is that yes, CO2 may contribute to global warming.
Yes.
But all the warming's done at the front end because it's a logarithmic scale. It's exponential. So it really all happens in those first 20 parts per million or whatever. So once you get to 410 parts per million, and then it doubled from 400 to 800 parts per million, that doesn't double the warming effect.
No.
In fact, if you look at the diagram, see where the arrows are at the very end. Doubling the CO2 makes very little difference to the warming effect. All the warming effect happens on the extreme left when it's going from 0 to, 20 parts per million.
Why do
Therefore,
why do the worst things always happen on the extreme left?
it's just the way things are. So there you go. So this is something to keep in your back pocket if you're ever wondering and arguing.
Can you make
climate scientist?
Can you make these slides available to people on our website?
Yes, we can. We could publish these slides.
At Chasing
Would you
Descent.
like that, people? Let us know in the chat.
If you'd like
or
that,
comment.
We could publish these slides at chasingdescent.com. We have a website. We don't fucking use it, but we have one.
We do you? Well, we put all our stuff on it.
Yeah. Well,
do it, says ThoughtStream. ThoughtStream says do it.
I have a question. Aren't we live on chasingdescent.com right now?
Yes, we are.
Yes, I thought we might be.
Should be.
Well, yeah. At chasingdescent.com, we have a website. You should go to it.
Yeah.
You should go to it. And once we've published the slides, we'll stick a link down in the description as to where they are. And there you go. So let's move on from the CO2 to...
Yeah, let's do that. Let's move on. Right, so have you seen this advert for Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Bites?
I have not.
Right, so I'm quite concerned about this.
Okay.
Because it shows you 3 masked men dressed as squirrels.
Okay.
Stealing Crunchy Nut Bites.
Yep.
But they've kind of stereotyped these men because they appear to be diverse.
Are they IC3 males?
I think so. And I think that might not be a good look for Kellogg's.
I can tell you how this has happened, and I know exactly how this has happened.
Go on.
So, as you can tell just by looking at the demographic makeup of people in adverts today, right?
Yes.
Advertising brands are going, let's not hire whitey if we can get away with it. Let's hire diverse people. So they've gone, right, let's do our good deed for the day and hire 3 people of colour to do this advert, and then it's completely backfired on them. And there you go.
Yeah. So we have 3 shall we say grey squirrels?
Yeah. Aren't they? The grey squirrels are the American ones that were brought in and wiped out our wonderful red squirrels, aren't they?
Well, I haven't wiped them out totally, but yes, they are. They have.
So what you're telling me is there is also a juxtaposition to be made there.
Yes,
I'm
possibly.
joking. I am joking. By the way, it is a joke.
I know. Right. So the Queen's death certificate came.
Did it really?
Yeah.
And what did it say she died of, John?
She died of old age.
It just says old age on it. Old age.
And you know what? I believe it. I actually believe this one.
I think I do too. I think I believe it. There's already a load of conspiracy theories out there saying, yes, the underlying cause is usually put on the death certificate. You don't just have old age on there.
Yeah, you do.
I think you probably do. I think there are probably plenty of death certificates out there with old age written on it. And yeah, 96. She had a good run. If I make it to 96, I'll be like, fuck's sake, why am I still alive?
Well, I was going to say, if you make it to 96, I'll eat my hat. But if you make it to 96, I'll be like 120.
You'll be dead. I'll be sitting there in my armchair going, I remember my friend John.
He's supposed to be eating his fucking hat right now.
He's supposed to be eating his hat, but he's dead.
And then you'll shed a solitary tear.
One solitary tear. And the effort it would take at 96 years old to create that tear would ultimately kill me.
I'm crying just now.
You know what? This is gold. This show is fucking gold. And if you're not liking it, sharing it, retweeting it, whatever, then you're silly. Because people should be coming here and watching this show, joining us and having a laugh.
This has got to be better than watching that clown Brand.
God.
Who's stolen our format.
Hello, my name's Russell, and I'm going to talk to you about this, that, and the other. Oh, what's that over there, Squirrel? I don't know, Russell Brand.
He's stolen our format.
Yeah.
He's stolen our show.
They all do it. James Melfield steals our stories 5 minutes after we talk about them.
He does that.
He does.
I'm convinced he watches this show and goes, "Oh, Bortle said that." There we go.
Now, 1 or 2 hours after we do a show, the stories we talk about start coming out on Melville's Twitter account, don't they, John?
Yeah, they usually do.
They usually do.
Right. Anyway, oh, here we go. What about this one then? This one crept under the radar, didn't it?
400 staff at BBC World Service will lose their jobs as part of a cost-cutting programme and move to digital platforms, the broadcaster announced on Thursday.
That was kept quiet. Didn't hear that in the BBC.
Do you know why you didn't hear that on... I believe BBC World Service is actually a private company. It's not the BBC. There are loads of private companies that have BBC in the name and are not actually owned by the BBC.
I thought the World Service was part of the BBC, though.
I don't think so.
Not...
I don't think so.
Is it completely devolved?
Yeah, it's. I believe so. It's like one massive money laundering scheme. There's something really, really dodgy about the way the BBC operates, and there's something really dodgy about. They're not meant to make a profit, right? They're not meant to make a profit, but because of things like BBC Studios, which is a private company, BBC World, which is a private company, and other BBC companies that have BBC in the name, it gets around it, and they make fucking billions.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? No? Yeah, fuck.
So,
fuck the BBC.
So remember the pound crashed?
Yeah, briefly, yeah.
Yeah, well, it bounced back up again.
Yeah, it crashed briefly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's back up to above where it was before the mini budget.
Yeah.
Now, I think it might be going back down again now, but you know what? See, when you invest in the stock market, did it not say stocks may go down as well as up?
Yeah, I mean, you know...
And that goes for currency too.
And it also comes for when you can get like a stocks and shares savings account, for example, and they keep investing for you in and out of stocks and shares, and you might make a nice windfall in that savings account, or you might lose all your money. You take on that risk when you take on that risk. And
Indeed you do.
I think the pound crashing was kind of artificial. I think it was because of all of the negative backlash against this so-called mini budget, and now people's knickers are not so much in a twist. It's going to bounce back.
Yeah.
It was not really much to argue or moan about, was there, John?
No, there wasn't. Mate.
No, there was not. And
so,
from that, we move on to Susanna. Susanna Reid.
I mean, it's like, how do you even start with this? Okay, it's like Holly Nice but Dim Willoughby, right?
Right.
And it's Susanna. I'm not the brightest,
Mm-hmm.
Read, because she seemed to think that the bills were capped at $2,500 and they wouldn't go over that. In which case, everybody would just use as much energy as you possibly could.
Yeah, no, it's per unit of energy.
Yeah, but she didn't understand that.
So, but the thing is, John, actually, loads of people don't understand that. That's not just Susanna.
But why didn't they understand that? Do they not realise that people that use more energy generally have to pay more for it?
Well, exactly. Right.
Let's face it. Let's say you had a $10,000 a month energy bill. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think your bill was capped at $2,500?
Well, put it this way: do you think Wembley Stadium's energy bill was capped at $2,500 a month?
No, I don't.
No, it definitely wasn't. And in fact, isn't it meant to be $2,500 a year?
Oh, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. But do you think like a major stadium or concert venue is paying $2,500 a year for their electricity?
No.
They're definitely not. Now, the thing is, I think the vast majority of people actually do believe that is the case. They think that when it gets to like £2,500, they won't pay any more. And that's not the case. It's not the case. Don't think, oh, I can afford that, so I'm going to leave my fucking heating on all day, every day, because it's going to be more than $2,500.
These people are just going to get caught out, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thing is...
This is like don't pay in reverse.
Yeah, but the thing is, I will I will give credit to the people who believe this in so much as they weren't told. Nobody's made it clear that that is what the £2.5 grand price cap means. They just keep hearing energy cap £2.5 grand a year. So that's what they're getting in their heads.
Yeah.
So there's nothing more we can really say about that. Air Canada, John. Air Canada welcomes the removal of these restrictions, acknowledging that air travel is safe and the measures weren't justified by science.
That's a big statement.
Air Canada has now gone on record and said this to the lifting of mask and vaccine and quarantine restrictions on their
So they've just thrown Mr. Trudeau under the bus, haven't they?
Yeah, and I mean, that is, like you say, that's a pretty bold and pretty ballsy statement. And to the YouTube censorship gods, that is Air Canada saying that. We are reporting on
we're
this.
not saying that. We're just reporting what Air Canada has said.
I will once again repeat. Air Canada welcomes the removal of these restrictions, acknowledging that air travel is safe and that the measures were not justified by science. We believe it will greatly facilitate travel, help to continue stabilising the country's air transport sector and support Canada's economy. Customers and crew will still have the option to wear masks. We also encourage customers to monitor their own health and to be sure they feel well and fit to travel. So,
well, that sounds sensible.
Yeah, it sounds like any normal.
Well, it's kind of how we used to do things, wasn't it? You know, if you were ill, you didn't go.
I mean, I've travelled.
I mean, we've got a friend who's been too ill and called off a journey, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got our co-host over on our second channel, 100 Acre Swamp. Our co-host of our live Disney piss take show, Dismal Disney. Ollie, he went to Disneyland Paris last week, spent most of it in his room because he was essentially paralysed from the waist down because of adverse reactions, shall we say. He then was meant to be going to Florida this week, all booked, all paid for, hotel rooms booked. I believe Disney Park rides booked, as in fast passes and ride times and things like that. Everything ready to go. Meeting his sister over there. Can't go. He doesn't feel well enough to travel. Called it off. He made that decision for himself, and he had the treats.
That's it. But you know, that's a sensible decision. If he's not well enough to travel, then he's not well enough to travel.
You're absolutely right, and it's the same with me, right? It's the same with me. If come next Saturday night, Sunday morning when I'm traveling, I end up in a position like I was this morning. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not driving at the very least, right? Yeah. I will make a decision as to whether or not I travel based upon my health at the time, because that's what, like you said, that's what we all did. It was normal. That's how it's sensible. Jesus, titty fucking Christ. Anyway, shall we move?
Well, there you go. That brings us to the end of the list, and that's pretty much on the hour.
The end of the list was me saying Jesus, titty fucking Christ.
Yeah.
How fantastic is that?
It's just dandy. It's just dandy, mate.
Yeah, well, of course it's dandy. It's just, these things just magically happen. They bring us to a logical conclusion, and we try and make people laugh. Anyway, John.
Ben.
Shield the Patreon, please.
So, if you like these shows and you'd like to continue hearing them and listening to them and watching them, then please consider giving us a small donation on patreon.com/chasing descent, subscribestar.com/chasing descent, or on ko-fi.com/chasing descent. That's ko-fi.com/chasing descent.
Links in the description.
Where you can contribute to our continued well-being. And we would thank you for it and very much appreciate it.
We would appreciate it indeed.
A like, a share, and a subscribe is always welcome.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, very important. So if you could do that, stick a like on the show, share the show. We really want people to share it because we want people to come along. This is a bit late because of extenuating circumstances, but mostly it's Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. You can't miss it if you know the time, and of course you can watch it back. But please share it, and if you are on that Facebook,
John, on that as well.
Yeah, we're on that as well. Go find us, Chasing Descent.
Yeah.
Facebook.com.
Chasing Descent on Facebook.com. And Instagram.
And Instagram. And TikTok. Quite big on TikTok, John.
Quite big on TikTok.
Quite big on TikTok.
And YouTube.
Right, anyway.
And with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending this episode 131 of Chasing Descent Live. And I very much look forward to seeing you on Monday.
See you then.
Good night.
Good night.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience to talk. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.